Thanks, Steve, and hi, everyone. It's time for round 2 of NASCAR Sprint Cup practice, and this will be the final practice. The difference is the cars you see in that outside line moving onto the speedway, they are coming out to draft. NASCAR has told drivers that intend to make single car time trial mock runs to line up on the inside where you see the Air National Guard car parked. So we'll see a bit of drafting practice. We'll see a bit of qualifying practice. We're going to see a little bit of everything. Hi, everybody. What we saw in the first hour of practice was a whole lot of this.
Oh, yeah.
2 by 2 by 2.
Round 1, no one got knocked out. But round 2, I wouldn't be so sure because these guys were making me nervous just out there practicing. But I know you got to do it. You got to get out there and see what you got and feel it out. But boy, if I was a crew chief or a car owner, I'd about have to not watch.
I would not be surprised to see some of those cars maybe that made some fairly long runs in that first 45 minutes. If they felt pretty good, if the engine guy felt pretty good, temperatures were good, I would not be surprised to see a few of those cars already on jack stands in the garage area getting ready to qualify and race, because remember, it's an impound weekend. You qualify what you're going to have to race.
Now, if you're locked into the top 35, any point in going out and making mock qualifying runs?
I think it would help just to see what you could run, because you know you still want to qualify well, because if nothing else, you get that good pit selection, the better you qualify.
That would be the last thing I would do in this practice. I'd go out and do all my practice racing runs, because that's really what you're getting ready for. Then that last minute there, I'd put 4 tires, little tape on the grill, and see what I had.
All right, let's get down to the garage and Dick Berggren.
I'm in Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s garage area, and that's because he is absolutely on a roll. So far this year, he's already got a pole, led 46 laps last weekend, and he finished second at Daytona, and this is Talladega, his very best racetrack. We were watching him bump draft in the first practice session, and I asked Junior how much he can do that before the engine overheats. He said it got up to 240 in just a little bit over 2 laps, but at the end of the race, 4 laps, he could make it that far, but the engine's liable to blow up. Matt Yoakum.
Dick, when you look over Kurt Busch's racing resume, 18 wins, stellar. But what's missing? A restrictor plate victory. He's come close here at Talladega and at Daytona. He helped push his old teammate Ryan Newman to victory in the 500 a couple years ago, and 4 different times he has finished 3rd here at Talladega. Now the agenda, he says the car very good. The agenda for this session, they're going to work on gear selection. Steve Addington told me they're hoping to go out and run about 18 to 20 laps. They've made 1 adjustment, see how that reacts with the race car, and then hopefully just put the car cover on it. He said one interesting characteristic about Kurt versus some other drivers he's worked with in the past, during practice at plate racing, he's very careful on the front and rear bumper, doesn't do a lot of shoving or slam drafting. He's very smart with how he takes care of his piece, and that's what you'll see here today in practice.
You know, just to talk a little bit about what Dick Berggren was talking about, the temperatures, the water temperatures of these cars, it's a closed, pressurized system. And it has to get quite hot before you lose any water because of the way the system's set up. But the problem is, from a horsepower standpoint, once you cross 235, 240, maybe 245 DW, it starts to hurt the power of the engine.
Yeah, and what happens in the engine when it gets that hot, it starts to what they call detonate. And it's almost like a misfire. The engine will still run, it just will not run at peak performance, and so you got to keep those temperatures within a certain reasonable zone. What they're looking at probably is, what if we came down to a shootout? How much tape could we stick on that grill on that pit stop to run those last few laps, which would help?
Look at the front end of Junior's car. Remember when Alan Kulwicki, at the end of what was his championship season, he asked Ford for permission to call his car the Underbird and get rid of the TH. Well, Junior's gotten rid of what, the L and the P. What's he running, an Impa right now?
And something tells me he didn't ask permission.
No, it just kind of scraped off there, rubbed off on. That was the black on the back of Jeff Gordon's bumper after the first practice. Was all that black lettering, because I didn't see Gordon bump drafting with a black car. So maybe it was the lettering off the Junior's car.
And if you look closely, probably at the rear bumper of Joey Logano's car, you'll probably see a little bit of paint off Junior's, because it seems like those 2 guys were hooked up a lot in that first practice.
Yeah, I was surprised to see how much time Junior spent working with Joey Logano, as if he was maybe trying to teach him something about bump drafting.
Now, that was Mike Dillon, the spotter for Clint Boyer. You heard him telling him, watch your temperatures. They're trying to really finesse the tape on the nose of these cars.
Because believe it or not, I mean, even though you got long straightaways here and a lot of time, the last thing you do as a driver is look at the gauges. You look at the gauges when you start to smell something, or when you see that water spraying up the right corner of your windshield over there. Then you look at the gauge and say, whoops.
Have a look at A.J. Allmendinger and David Reagan.
Whoa, oh boy.
Too close for comfort.
Well, that just tells you how. But when you see the cars get out of shape like that, Mike, it just tells you these cars are pretty stable. They're pretty darn secure, because to lose control of the car for an instant like that and grab it back, the car must be handling pretty darn good.
Yeah, for A.J. to slide across Reagan's back bumper like that and not turn him around.
Got a lot of down. Got a lot of down on the rear of the car.
You know, what's interesting is what I just saw at the front of this pack. You saw Jimmy Johnson, the 48, and his teammate Mark Martin in the 5 hook up and drive away from that pack. Then Burton in the 31, Keselowski in the 12 hooked up like you see them right there. They just blew by that 48 and the 5 like they had 50 more horsepower.
It looks like any 2 good cars lined up are going to be better than any 10 other cars.
And that's going to make the end of this race. You just think about it, at the end of this race, if everybody's in a wide like that group right there is, 2 guys get hooked up on the outside and go flying by all of them with a couple laps to go, that could be the race. Because look where...
I mean, they have just driven by everybody, and now they clear that group, and you saw Keselowski stick a nose to the inside just to kind of test the waters right there of the Burton car.
So that gives Jeff Burton the fastest lap in this session. He and Keselowski, 48.008, 48.009.
48.00 is getting pretty fast. 199.
199.
The red flag is out in Speed's presentation of NASCAR Sprint Cup Final Practice, brought to you by Sponsifyer. Visit ToyotaRacing.com, click on Design It, enter it. By Honda Generators, the power of choice. And by Tornadoes, bold is how we roll. You see the damage on Ryan Newman's Haas Automation Office Depot car. Watch the 39, but also watch what happens in front of him.
Coming in
You'll
your
see
picture.
Newman on the inside, 4th in line.
Right back here. Caught the inside wall and not done yet.
No, he's going to smack
Bam.
the outside wall. So I would say they will be going to a backup car on for this 39.
But watch the 48 and the 98, the 98 and the 43. Newman checks up and Mark is into him.
Yeah. That's what happens if something in front of you happens, you end up being the victim.
You know, I talked to Tony Gibson. You see Tony right there, the crew chief of this 39 car, and he said, you know, we love racing at Daytona and Talladega, but when you mention restrictor plate racing around Ryan or myself, we flinch a little bit because they have had some terrible, terrible luck at these restrictor plate racetracks, even in practice.
You know, I'm going to give Ryan credit for a nice save, because the speed at which he took off toward the inside wall, Darrell, I think, yes, the car is hurt as Bobby Hutchins leans in to talk to Ryan, but I think that was a very light hit for the speed that car was going and the direction he was headed.
It did. At least we think the spoiler may have, you know, at least it didn't do anything crazy.
You think about Ryan a year ago, he finished 3rd with a completely destroyed race car. The only reason he finished 3rd is because when Carl Edwards came down and caught on the nose of that car, the throttle was hung on the 39. He couldn't stop it.
I like the way Tony and Ryan, they never said a word to each other. They just kind of walked over, looked at the car, looked at each other, and they walked off.
Well, that's, you know, Tony's told us that's his philosophy. When he comes to the racetrack, you know, he's the owner Monday through Thursday. When he comes to the racetrack, he's the driver of the 14 and doesn't play the owner role.
Trying to get out. That one can run. Yeah. Do you need anything on an intake, carb, or anything? It's ready to go. It's on my back.
All right, that's one of the guys from the Hendrick engine department because they supply the engine. What they were talking about is they want to get out with the backup car. He was telling them about the engine in the backup car, that, yeah, it has carburetor, it has intake, you're good to go. Get it through inspection, get it warmed up, get you some practice laps. That doesn't mean they won't change the engine after this practice, but what they have in it is good to get on the track.
I don't believe anybody comes here with a backup car that's not full-blown ready to roll off the trailer, because we know from practice that you're going to wad some of them up, and you better have a pretty darn good backup in the trailer.
I will admit this, 10 years later, when we were at Daytona and Talladega practicing, we already had our backup car unhooked and the oil tank heaters plugged in.
Dick Berggren's caught up with Ryan.
And Ryan's still looking a bit at his car. This was a brand new race car before that incident. Is the backup car as good as this one?
No, that's why we had this one as a primary, but I don't know what happened. I know I got hit. I just don't know why or what happened, but just tired of being the one getting hit in these places. Just to start driving into everybody else like they do me and see if I can turn somebody else around or whatever and see what happens. I mean, it's a product of the racing here, and it's not the greatest, but I know NASCAR's doing everything they can, and we'll see if it gets any better throughout the weekend.
I wish you better with a backup car.
Boy, Ryan is choosing his words, and he so wants to.
It's hard to talk when you're biting your tongue that hard,
yeah,
isn't it?
and you can't blame the guy. He has had the rottenest luck at restrictor plate races of anybody we know of.
Yep. Victim of circumstance.
Yeah, that's a shame.
So here's the 55 this week, and it's decked out with a familiar name above the driver's door, Michael Walter.
Well, when you think about Michael, over 760 career starts, 4 wins. Every one of those wins has been a restrictor plate win. Won once here, 3 times at Daytona, including 2 Daytona 500s.
Now, most likely he's just working on qualifying. He's not worried about racing right now.
Here's your Sponsifier track description. Talladega Superspeedway opened as the Alabama International Motor Speedway in 1969. Like Daytona, only bigger, faster, longer, and with a unique start-finish line, not in the middle of the tri-oval as at Daytona, but down toward turn 1, so that the seats down past the view of pit road would also be premium seats. And there's been some premium action right between the center of the tri-oval and this line.
And that front straightaway, it says straightaway, but as we well know, I mean, you got a dog leg, big dog leg through the front right here. But let me tell you, 200 mile an hour through this dog leg is a lot more treacherous than 200 mile through the corner.
Let's check with Dick Berggren.
Carl Edwards sits in his car right now, Mike. He told me moments ago that he really would prefer to be on the racetrack rather than sitting in the garage. They'd like to practice. But somewhere this car has developed a vibration. They have been all over it trying to find the source of that vibration. And so far, they haven't found it. Plenty of mechanics underneath it looking, though.
And Dick, this actually came about in the first practice session. It almost looks like they're doing a little bit of a process of elimination, possibly right now changing the rear end gear.
I think, you know, it can be the header, it can be the tailpipes. Sometimes the way the tailpipes bolt up to the chassis, that vibrates in the car and the driver feels. It can be in the gearbox. You can have the gearbox gears in there or something out of whack.
Saw the tape on the nose of that 31 car. We've been talking about it all during these practice sessions because the tape is a free lunch when it comes to aero. It puts pressure on the front tires. It helps front downforce, but more important at this place, the more you block those radiator inlets up, it really helps the aero drag. Really reduces the drag, makes it run faster on the straightaway.
The Air National Guard Ford of David Stremme is one of the cars that will have to qualify on time. And you saw Terry Cook earlier in the Autism Speaks Dodge, as these cars that have to time their way in are making their mock qualifying runs.
And the tightrope they're walking, knowing that they have to race what they qualify, with only 2 cars not making the show, how aggressive do we get to qualify?
Good point. Jeff Burton has the fastest lap of this session so far at almost 200 miles an hour. Welcome back to Talladega, where tonight on trackside at 7:30 Eastern Time, Clint Boyer stops by to chat with the boys. Trackside only on Speed.
Guarantee you one thing, Boyer will light things up. He's a character.
Yes, he is.
He is a genuine character.
Now here's the danger zone of top 35 drivers. You just see Robbie Gordon going by, and as Darrell pointed out in the earlier practice, 1 point is all that separates Darrell from the number 37.
It's amazing. Robbie, he just floats right there, right along that top 35. He's in 1 week, out 1 week.
But right now, you get a feeling that the 09 car and the 13 car, that's two of the go-or-go-homers. When you look at their speeds, that was in a draft. Right now, Robbie Gordon possibly is the fastest go-or-go-homer in single car runs, just looking at the score monitor.
I think so, Larry. It's a 52. Well, he ran a 52.2. He's a 52.4 that time. Looks like somewhere down low 52s would be a pretty good lap by yourself.
Now, there is a concern about rain tomorrow, and if qualifying should fall victim to rain, of the 45 cars here, 44 of them have attempted every single race. The one that has not has been the second Tommy Baldwin entry, so that would be one of the cars to go home, and the other would be Terry Cook's Dodge, based on attempts and races made and point standings.
You saw that grease they were taking out of the rear end of that car. That's qualifying grease. See how thin that is? That's not your typical rear end grease. And what they'll do is they'll put that real light synthetic grease in the rear end, but they won't fill it all the way up. They keep it down. Well, that's right, it's the impound race, so they probably will, somewhere in the middle, I guess.
Yeah, I would say we're seeing a lot of gear changes. You know, we have a gear rule everywhere we go, including here. Everywhere we go, with the exception of the carburetor restrictor plate, you're going to run the lowest gear. The ratios, you have a choice here, 360 or a little lower, 364. You're trying to figure out not what gear makes you run faster by yourself, but possibly what gear will make you run faster in the draft. Sometimes it can be that higher gear, especially here.
Yeah, drafting.
How many RPM difference between a 360 gear and a 364?
It might only be about 100 RPMs, if even that.
I was going to say 200, yeah. I'd say about 200.
One of the questions has been, what's up with Carl Edwards' car? Dick, are they carrying the answer?
I believe they are carrying the answer. Edwards has told the crew the car is good in first gear, second gear, third gear, it's fine, but he puts it in fourth, and that's where the vibration comes. So crew has just carried a new transmission in. They are going to change transmissions.
One of the things you do to the transmissions, and I'm sure that there's rules, I don't know exactly where they are today, but you will thin those gears down as much as possible. Less spinning weight. The lighter the transmission gears are, the better the engine will run, the more power you can make. So maybe they got one that's out of whack a little bit, or a fifth off of it even.
And they're running out of time fast to isolate this vibration. And the thing about it, you might say, why don't they just change engine and everything? Well, remember the engine rule. You can change the engine, but if NASCAR tears it apart and there's nothing wrong with it, they possibly can take that engine and keep that engine. And this is just to keep people from showing up with those qualifying engines. You can change transmissions without a penalty as long as you do it before qualifying. And that's just to keep those light transmissions from being out there.
Now that 71 car, you can see it's crabbed a little to the left. As it goes down the straightaway, it's minor, but it's definitely crabbed around to the left side. And what they're trying to do is keep all the air off of that spoiler back there as the car goes in yaw through the corner that they possibly can. See how the rear of the car is down almost on the yellow line, the front's up a little bit.
But Mike, this is one of those cars you were talking about. Bobby Labonte is a top 35 car. They're locked in, but it looks like Doug Randolph, Bobby's decided to see how fast they can run 2 laps by themselves.
And here we go.
Yeah, the track didn't just open, but it looked like it did. They were just filing off pit road.
Well, that's the beauty of an impound race. The things we used to do to race cars here to qualify were ridiculous. Yeah. You rebuilt the race car just to run 1 lap, really, and it cost a fortune to do it for 1 stinking lap.
I mean, even you'd have to change out. Wouldn't you have to change out all the hubs because of all the light
brakes, gears,
and loose tolerances and things like that?
Anything that rotated, you changed. Yeah. And I've even remember I said this one. I know a guy had to change his seat.
What?
Because they moved the trailing arms up so high in the race car that it jacked the seat up, and he had to make a special seat for qualifying.
Yeah, our list of things to change after qualifying here in Daytona when it was not an impound was almost 50 items. We barely could get it all done to get back out on the racetrack for practice. One team told me that a few years ago, before the impound procedure, for the 4 races at restrictor plate tracks, Daytona and Talladega, almost $100,000 spent on lubricants alone. Wheel bearing grease, gear oil, transmission oil, and engine oil.
Darrell, take us for a ride with Martin Truex.
Well, I love, just see how relaxed he is. You see his hands on the wheel. That tells you a whole lot. He's not just squeezing on that steering wheel. He's got a nice soft touch right there, almost like a golfer. And, you know, he's looking out the right side just a little bit. You can see his head cocked a little round to the right there, seeing where everybody is. Mirrors are a huge thing. He just tugged on his belts because it got a little tense there for a minute. But very relaxed. You don't fight the wheel. The less you move the steering wheel here, the faster you'll go. You try to do what I always call give the car its head. You try not to crank on that wheel very much, slow the car down by virtue of turning the steering wheel. The least you can turn it, the better off you are.
Now we saw Ryan Newman spin off the bumper of Mark Martin for an accident that started way up a bit further. Watch the 48 and 98.
Right,
the 43 packs up. And then Ryan tries to ease up, and around he goes. Let's get the other side of the story. Here's Matt.
Mike, I'm sure Mark Martin will break down the video once practice is over. Great shot of his bumper. You can see the effects of the bump drafting. Mark came on the radio when he pulled in. He said, please tell Jeremy Brickhouse and also pass it on to the driver, the 39, Ryan Newman, that it wasn't me, but it was me. But I don't feel like it was my fault. I feel like I got bumped from behind. So please pass that on. Right now, the agenda on the 5, they've already completed a gear change. They're going to A and B, a gear that they ran in the first session and earlier in this session, and now the gear selection they put in now, just to see. They think they have an idea of which one they want to go with. They just want to double check.
Right outside those two, look at those two cars, the 9 and the 33 there. Here we come again.
They look welded.
If you can.
They look welded together.
Golly. It's just the phenomenon of the whole thing, though, is that you can push each other all the way around the racetrack. That's why you see this.
And they will stay out front until the next pair can get together and break out away from the pack and run them down.
Yeah, Casey Kane just went from 15th quickest in this practice session to 8th quickest, hooked up in that little 2-car draft.
2 by 2 by 2. Oh, it's going to be interesting on Sunday. Tonight's Speed brings you the story of Bill France Jr. After taking the reins from his father, he expanded NASCAR, turning it into a national phenomenon. NASCAR Hall of Fame biography, Bill France Jr. tonight, 8:30 Eastern, only on Speed.
I like the way these drivers all work absolutely together as best they can until they get just about 150, 200 feet from the start-finish line, and then they dive out to see if they can beat that guy they've been working with to the line or not.
Both practice sessions, though, the fella everybody wants to dance with is Jeff Burton. Burton is once again the fastest in this session, ahead of Brad Keselowski, Mike Bliss, and Denny Hamlin.
And you know, going back to Speed Weeks at Daytona, we watched him all during those practice sessions. We felt like he had one of the faster cars during most of Speed Weeks.
We really did. The thing about Burton is most people like to run with him. He's got a fast car. People like to run with him because they trust him. They know he's not going to do anything real kind of weird. He's going to kind of mind his manners and take care of you if he can.
That car he's pushing right now, Marcos Ambrose, finished 4th here a year ago. Good run in the spring Talladega race.
Kurt Busch was being pushed by Denny Hamlin. Now he's the pusher, and now they separate in the back straightaway.
Well, it's going to come down to timing. Whatever two guys can time it right, get that 2-car run like we saw with Keselowski and Carl here last year. Get that good run with about 2 or 3 to go and get that big lead. It's going to be hard to chase 2 guys down like that down, man. I'm telling you.
But you're right, Darrell. I think it's going to be a fine line on that lap 188 coming to the checkered flag. Don't go too early. Don't go too late.
Look at that move. Junior just put on Jeff Burton. That's the move you make in the tri-oval to win the race.
But look at Burton come back.
That's a last lap move right there.
Well, that's what I say. They've all been kind of working together. They get down here to the line. They make a little quick move to see where they can end up.
Watch this. Watch the move Junior makes in the 88, second car in line. This is how you win at Talladega. Drop, side draft, finish line.
Yeah, now see, that side draft's it's an interesting thing. We never used to call it side draft. We almost felt like we didn't really know we were helping ourselves as much as we thought we were hurting the guy we were getting up alongside of, basically slowing him down. But what you do is you get up beside him and get that suck as you get up beside him and then swing away from him, and you get a nice pull from that.
And Mike, a real part of that timing, Darrell touched on it in our first practice. Remember, that double yellow line all the way around this racetrack is out of bounds. And what I saw when Junior got to the middle of the tri-oval and he got that right front fender at that left rear quarter panel, that's pretty much your ground right there. Of course, unless you know, you go back to the race about a year and a half ago with Tony Stewart and Regan Smith, then it becomes a little bit of a ball strike call. Couple of Fords hooked up there on the bottom. Elliott Sadler in the 19, Greg Biffle in the 16, and then Paul Menard in the 98. Saw that in the first practice session. All the Fords kind of stayed together a good bit of it.
New look for Sadler's car, Bostitch. They make staplers and machinery like that.
Paul Menard, you know, he's a pretty good restrictor plate racer. The race that Regan Smith got taken away from him. Paul sat there, and because of that, he finished second in that race. So he knows how to get around these super speedways with a restrictor plate.
Now we're about halfway through this practice session. It's an hour session. We've had 38 cars on the racetrack. Dick Bergman was telling us during the commercial break that it looked like the two Red Bull cars of Brian Vickers, Scott Speed up on jack stands, possibly no practice. And then the team and the man, of course, we know it's not the same car because it's in the Daytona Experience. Jamie McMurray in the one car, another team that's elected not to run this practice session, it looks like.
As soon as somebody wrecks, like Ryan Newman did, there are some guys that say, that's it, cover them up.
You got what you got.
That's pretty smart.
I don't believe Montoya has practiced in this session, McMurray's teammate. Speed's coverage of Sprint Cup final practice at Talladega. Brought to you by Lumber Liquidators, hardwood flooring for less. And by top-rated New Finish, tough enough to be called the once-a-year car polish. Here are the cars that have not been on track in this session. Both of the Ganassi cars, both of the Red Bull team, along with Regan Smith, David Rudiman, and somewhat curiously, Jeff Gordon.
But you know, another thing, and Darrell knows this, and I know being with Richard Childress, which right now that group doesn't seem to be bashful about running laps, but these restrictor plate engines are so temperamental that we always felt like the more you ran them in practice, it took just a little bit of the edge off that engine. And you know what? If you take 1 or 2 horsepower out of it by running laps, that could be a huge qualifying tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. And one of the things that really hurts these engines, and we didn't realize it so much until we tested quite a bit with them, winding them up through the gears. Max RPM. And that was really hard on the valve train, harder than actually running the car around the racetrack wide open. And we didn't really know that, so we started short shifting to save the engines.
Paul Menard in the Turtle Wax car giving Jeff Burton a boost.
Jeff Burton is just, he's tried it with everybody, Larry.
Yeah.
Ford, Dodge, Chevrolet, he's had everybody pushing him.
Well, and he's run by far the most laps in this practice session. He's run 29 laps, which is well over a full fuel run. And I think he also ran the most laps in the first session.
That's right.
Just time. About out of gas here.
Oh, they heard you.
Out of gas. That's what they've been doing, I guess, trying to run her out of gas. I noticed Junior did the same thing. I think he may have run his out of fuel.
Well, you'll learn what kind of fuel mileage you're getting, but more importantly, exactly how much fuel that fuel cell's picking up.
Well, and Larry, is that a question too with the new rear spoiler and the additional drag it puts on the car? Is fuel mileage affected?
Well, I think 2 things. The drag on the car, but remember, this is a different size restrictor plate. And of course, every time you change that restrictor plate, it certainly can change the fuel mileage. So that's something the engine guys need to learn here.
See this area right back here, folks? That spoiler sticking out right there, that's what you try to hide when you crab the car over that way. You're trying to bring the rear of the car that way so that you can get that spoiler where it won't see all that air when it's going down the straightaway. And on a super speedway or on a downforce track, you want to bring it all this way to pick up all the downforce you can. But that thing is sticking out there a long way on that right side.
And Darrell, one might say, okay, if you pull it out from the right, does it stick it out in the left? But the left side and the right side of the cars are different, because remember, on the right side, you have that solid right side window. In the left side, you have an open window that kind of disturbs the air before it gets back to the spoiler area.
So there's a lot of games you play with these cars, even though there's not a lot of, you know, they're pretty tight box, but you do all you can, because a little bit here is a whole lot.
This is Eric Almirold in one of the Tommy Baldwin racing cars, Al Henke's company, Mohawk Northeast. They build bridges, among other things. Do a lot of infrastructure work on the car. They also have a very successful dirt modified team, finished in the top 3 in points last year.
Now, if indeed a lot of our go-homers like Eric Almirold, like Joe Nemechek, are making practice qualifying runs, Eric Almirold would be in pretty good shape, but his teammate Johnny Sauter in that 36 car, a little bit slower, could be in trouble.
So here are the cars that must qualify on time based on their practice speeds. Mike Bliss, the quickest of those, 3rd fastest lap overall in this session.
Larry, I have a question for you when we come back.
You have anything to do with the University of Alabama?
No.
No. All right, leaving us with bated breath, you had a question.
Well, I think the rear spoiler is centered on the deck lid, center line of the spoiler, center line of the car. It's not moved one way or another.
No, because, you know, we used to could do that. We'd come here, we'd want to move that spoiler over to the left, like you've been talking about, skewing the car, downforce tracks over to the right, but absolutely dead center of the car. Looking at Jimmy Johnson here in the 48 car, a little bit of a milestone weekend for Jimmy Johnson, making his 300th career start here this weekend.
Sprint brings you an inside look at what's happening now inside the Sprint Cup Series. And the Sprint Cup point standing leader is, guess who? Jimmy Johnson. For more NASCAR stats, in-car audio, and live race radio, move on over to sprint.com/speed.
And don't want to take anything away from Denny Hamlin, that 11 team from Texas, but they better be glad it wasn't a Samsung 501.5, because that 48 car was coming.
Okay, here's what Denny Hamlin said about that, because someone asked him about that. I heard him the other afternoon on radio. He said, they were telling me intervals. I knew how many laps I had to go. I figured out how fast I had to go, and I said, oh yeah, that's a typical driver for you. But he made a good point. He said, I didn't want to use all my stuff up in case there was another caution flag. I wanted to have as much tires, as good a tires I could have, so I could race him.
Good point. The Baldwin Automotive number 36, Tommy Baldwin, recalling a paint scheme that his dad ran on an early modified, and carrying his dad's business, an automotive repair and maintenance facility on Long Island that's still operated by the family as Baldwin Automotive. That number 36. Matt?
Mike, a fast car today, and really a fast car everywhere we've gone this year, especially at Phoenix. AJ Allmendinger, so you're done. How is your piece?
The Insignia Best by Ford's pretty good. When you got Roush Yates horsepower under the hood, you know you're gonna have a fast race car, and it's just it's crazy out there. I think we worked on some stuff from the first practice to the second that really helped the car kind of suck up in the draft, which is gonna be key. But we know how this place is. It's all gonna be about just getting yourself in the right position at the right time, and we got some fast teammates to work with, so I'm gonna be ready to go on Sunday.
And Larry Mack has a question from the booth. Is this the car you had at the Daytona 500 that was so quick?
It is. So it's just as fast, and I'm excited. Obviously, Daytona and Talladega, they're a bit different how you race, but like I said, we got a lot of horsepower in the hood. The car is really stable in the draft right now. There's some cars that seem like they're moving around a lot. Mine's stuck to the racetrack, and we're just going to try to lead every lap and win the race. It should be simple.
Simple agenda. One guy very fast almost won the Daytona 500 a short time ago.
And Darrell, you remember, he had to start at the rear and drove up there to take the lead without help from a lot of other drivers.
Had a very fast race car. Backup car coming out. That's pretty quick, Larry.
Yeah, actually, really less than about 30 minutes in that 39 car.
So when they told him it was ready to go, it was ready to go.
You know, I'm sure NASCAR did a little bit of the safety inspection, and they'll let them go through the rest of the inspection after this practice session. You'll get about 15 minutes of practice with this backup 39 car. That doesn't look good.
Well, I thought I'd seen everything, but note the cute little birdie right there in turn one has put out the red flag. I guess it'll go down in the book as debris in turn one. I'm not sure if she's looking for a nest or just a flat place to stand. But get out of there, please.
Without a caution to get him off the track, he's going to be bye-bye Blackbird.
I was going to say, for that little bird, that is not a safer barrier.
No.
Well, the caution is out. And while the track crew deals with this, let's find out what the 99 crew is dealing with, Dick.
Well, Carl said it's about 20% better, but 80% the way it was earlier with that vibration. The transmission change did not solve the problem. They are running out of time, Mike, to solve this, to find the source of a vibration in Carl Edwards' car.
Thanks, Dick. Now, you know, all joking aside, that little bird or anything that you would hit at 198 miles an hour would do some serious damage, and not just to the bird. Matt?
Mike, time to clean the windows and get the 24 car ready for Sunday's race and hopefully tomorrow's qualifying here at Talladega. This car has not been out. No need, they felt like, the 24 team to take their car out on the track, take a chance on tearing up their primary machine, like what happened to Ryan Newman. So it's up on jack stands, safe and sound.
A little later on today here at Talladega, the ARCA cars take to the speedway, and I know one proud father anticipating his son's Superspeedway debut.
It's getting anxious moments here. Yeah, Brandon McReynolds, my son, of course, he ran the Salem race a couple of weeks ago, which is a short track, but he's going to roll off and take the green flag at a track that I sat in the grandstands with my dad when I was 11 years old and watched my very first Sprint Cup Series race.
That poor bird can't fly. He is going to get escorted to a spot out of harm's way. That's pretty steep getting down.
I know you can really appreciate how steep the racetrack is. We got the bird in hand.
Friday night drag season opener Friday, April 30th at Atlanta. For tickets and info, visit AtlantaMotorSpeedway.com.
And just for the record, Texas Motor Speedway does not have a drag strip, right?
Not yet. We're still looking for it, however. Dick?
Well, Ryan Newman has made it back out on the racetrack for a few laps, Mike, and has told the crew that the backup car felt pretty good, didn't seem to bottom. The crew has been told to look everything over and then hopefully go back out again. What they are concerned about is any sort of rubbing or bottoming or any of that kind of thing.
Thanks, Dick. Jeff Burton, Brad Keselowski, Mike Bliss. Tops in this practice. The bird's been rescued. The track will be open shortly. Speed's presentation of Sprint Cup practice from Talladega, brought to you by Toro. Count on it. And by Wrangler. For unbeatable comfort and value, you can count on Wrangler Jeans Company. About 10 minutes left in this practice session. Mark Martin out making a single car run, and there's a 4-car draft out there. Well, let's go back to the garage and check with Matt.
And catching up with Greg Biffle, driver who had top 10s in both visits to Talladega Superspeedway 1 year ago. So you had a long debrief with Greg Irwin, your crew chief. Is your car a better pusher or puller?
Well, it seems like a better pusher right now. You know, this Roush Yates engine, FR9 engine running really good. We're real happy with the 3M Ford Fusion car. So, you know, hopefully, you know, call 811 before you dig, but hopefully we won't be digging with this car. You know, it's getting pretty crazy out there. So we're hoping to stay out of trouble, get another top 10 this weekend. But I tell you what, it's going to be crazy on Sunday.
Now, in the first practice session, I heard Matt Kenseth, your teammate at one point, talk about trying to get all the Ford teams together to run in a pack, and you were able to do that this session?
Yeah, we did it last session. We got together and we're able to run all the Fords together, and you know, we got an idea how they run, and you know, it's going to be a 2-car push everywhere you look. Going to be a bunch of 2-car breakaways, I think, and you know, the closing rate's super fast, so that's going to be an issue. Guys trying to block, guys coming too fast. Guys got to get on the brakes, nowhere for the guys back there to go. So it's going to be chaos on Sunday, and you know, it's going to be a lot of fun too. I can't wait. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be the funnest Talladega, hopefully, that I've participated in.
Absolutely. Biffle, one of those drivers to keep an eye out for on Sunday in the 16 machine.
Yeah, you know what 811, you know what that is for?
Yeah, that's a wonderful program, and I can tell you firsthand, the Call Dig program, we had a new house built. We're going to put a basketball hoop up for my son and dig a hole.
Yes.
And just before we did, it's like, well, you know, we don't know much about where everything is here. Let's call. And they came out, painted the grass. Here's the line. Where I was going to put that post was right over the main electric service for the house, and I would have been in it. And that would have been shocking.
Yes, it would have. So I like 811 dig. I got a guy come to my house every time he brings his backhoe over there. He ends up hitting a water line, a sewer line, a phone line.
So call 811 before you dig. That's it. Now that you've sent your census forms back in, call 811 before you dig. And here are 2 of the front row cars going at it. Kevin Conway in the Extends 38 and Mahindra Tractors on the 37 for Robert Richardson this week.
Now, Kevin Conway did not race in the Daytona 500 because he was not approved for that 2.5-mile Superspeedway at that point.
And Ryan Newman in that backup car getting some time out on the track with them. And the 19 of Elliott Sadler.
How many numbers is this? 37, 38, 39? Where's 40 when you need it?
Yeah, 19 doesn't really go with it, does it?
No.
Well, Sterling's probably sitting on the house.
Yeah.
Sitting on the porch of the house.
Had Mule Day a couple of weeks. Yeah, it's a couple of weeks ago. A guy got arrested for riding his mule drunk.
Him or the mule?
No, I don't know. That's what Sterling told me.
Oh, you know, good ass
Something
is hard
tells
to
me
find.
you would have to be drunk to ride a mule.
Jenny.
Yeah, I think everybody has somewhat concluded they've got what they've got. We've got 5 cars out on the racetrack. You saw those 4 right there. Now we see Carl Edwards continuing to try to get back out there and chase this vibration that he's had pretty much since the start of that very first practice session.
I tell you what, though, Larry, they're changing out those parts. To change the transmission that quickly, it's not as easy. You got to drop the tailpipes. A lot of stuff goes on under there to get that transmission in and out that fast.
Terry Cook out for one more run, and we'll be back to wrap things up on Talladega Friday. Closing minutes of a final practice session that has seen Mike Bliss, one of the go-or-go-home cars, as the 3rd fastest, and Max Pappas 7th fastest among many of the Sprint Cup regulars. There is a considerable, very strong chance of severe thunderstorms in the area either tonight or tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon. But somewhere that's going to roll through. It's going to be quite a storm system. So should qualifying rain out, the 2 drivers who would go home would be Johnny Sauter and Terry Cook.
I don't know, that 09 car sitting there in 3rd place. That's pretty impressive. You know why? Because that's the car that won the race here.
Yes, it was.
So that's
Brad Keselowski a year ago.
Pretty good speed for that car. Right back in the thick of things.
And that was a car that had to go to the rear of the field to start that race because of an engine change.
Or I'm mistaken, 35 of Eric Almirold. Johnny Sauter moving over to the 36. So Almirold and Cook would be the drivers if qualifying is rained out. And of course, we hope that we'll get a full day in here at Talladega tomorrow, including the nationwide race.
Explain that about my brother, because some people ask us, well, Mikey will be in the race if it rains, but it's because they have attempted to make every race. They have more attempts than some of the other guys.
Yeah, the only car here that has not run all the races is the 35 that Eric Almirold
or attempted all the races.
Attempted.
Yeah. Plus, you have owner points as well, so
you have owner points
more than some of the other guys.
If all those other cars have made all the attempts, it's owner points. How many races you've made determine determine your owner points. So the 55 would be in the show.
Right, he would be.
Yeah, the only car that is an exception in the go or go homers, if it rains, that's in no matter where he's at in the points, is the 09 car, because that car won a race from last year. If you win a race in the year prior or in the existing year, it pretty much locks you into the show should we get rain.
Right. There's a look at Almirold, and hopefully he'll have a chance to make the field tomorrow.
Boy, that 48.008 there, almost 200 miles an hour. It's cooking around this joint.
And they did that hooked up together as a 2-car draft.
So the flags are out to end this session, and once again, Jeff Burton is the winner of practice. ARCA Racing coming up a little later on as Mark Martin and Ryan Newman discuss what may have happened there on the back straightaway. That put Newman in a backup car. Chain reaction crash. Really nobody's fault.
Well, unpredictable. Unpredictable who's going to sit on the pole tomorrow. If weather doesn't intervene, definitely unpredictable who'll go to victory lane Sunday.
All right, we'll see you fellas at trackside tonight. ARCA race a little later on. And we're going to John Roberts with NASCAR Live.